Do we decide to let things bother us or not? For example, I had these coworkers that used to say ignorant things to me and talk about me behind my back. And actually, at one point, they tried to get me fired. And so I eventually told my boss, before they tried to get me fired, I told him, uh, they're saying these things about me and to me, and they're very ignorant. And he just said, don't let it bother you. Don't let these things bother you. And then it continued. So every once in a while, I'd let him know, hey, they're still saying these things. And he just kept saying, they're still there. Don't let it bother you. Um, a few more times, I let him know, and he was getting visibly bothered. You could tell it in his voice, and so on and so forth. He would uh, express annoyance at me telling him, and it occurred to me that I should say to him, "Don't let it bother you." Of course, I didn't. He may have just laughed it off. He may have gotten very angry about it being called out for his contradiction. But either way, he would have realized, oh, wait, it bothers me that he keeps pestering me about this, and I cannot help but be bothered by it. So he may have realized that me being bothered by these things wasn't really up to me. It wasn't a choice. It was just something that a natural reaction. Like if somebody throws a rock at you and it hits you, you don't decide whether or not it hurts or that you feel it. It either hurts or it doesn't. If it's a small rock, it might not hurt, but you still feel it. If it's a large rock, it's probably going to hurt you. So this sticks and stones might break my bones, but names will never hurt me is delusional because, well, one thing is words uh, travel by sound waves, and sound waves are, they stimulate our inner ear, and so that's physical. It is actually a physical thing, and it affects our brain states. So yet again, it's a physical thing. So our emotional state of mind is actually dictated by uh, physical things. But anyways, we don't we don't get to decide whether or not being called a name or someone saying something to us hurts us or not. We don't say to ourselves, well, I'm going to decide this isn't going to hurt me. You just, you're either hurt by it or you're not. Like, if somebody's mother just passed away and then somebody says to them, she was a dumb C word and I'm glad that she's dead, and you're an effing loser, and they laugh, you're going to be affected by that, whether or not you want to be. You're actually, the whole idea of wanting to be affected by it isn't even going to pop into your head. You're not even going to feel, do I want to be affected by this or not? It's just going to happen. And if you're not affected by that in any way, well, then you might be a sociopath or something. Or if maybe a better example is if you love someone dearly, maybe your daughter or uh, your your mother or your sibling passes away, you don't decide whether or not that emotionally affects you. It just does. You are, you're very sad. You don't stop and think, well, do I want to be sad about this or not? It's compulsive. It just happens involuntarily. It's imposed on you. It's without your consent. It just happens. And if it required you to say to yourself, I'm going to feel this or I'm not going to feel this, then that would make you kind of like a robot, because you're in this state of emotionless, of no emotion, and then like a light switch, you decide whether or not you want to feel something or not. So that's kind of more less human than admitting that we don't have these kinds of controls, that they're impulsive, compulsory. So that's more human. It's actually what makes us human, is that we're subjected to emotions and things, external things that get to us, or they don't. You don't take a moment and reflect whether or not the insanely loud barking dog outside your window the neighbor is letting out, whether or not it's going to irritate you or not, or wake you up. It just happens, and then you can try to not let it bother you, but it's, you know, it depends on a person's threshold, which depends on, you know, chemical states in their brain. Is this person deficient on vitamin D? Are they deficient in some other chemical or vitamin? Did they eat yet? Are they hungry? There was a study done where some judges were they they had these hearings, and if the judge didn't eat before the hearing for these criminals, uh, the judge would give a much harsher punishment, as opposed to the judges that did eat before the hearing. So they weren't hungry, and so they gave a normal or a less harsher punishment for the same crimes. So these physical states affect what we do. So the next time somebody says to you, "Don't let it bother you," I, as an experiment, I would suggest just keep bugging them about it. How, but it really bothers me. I can just keep going on and on about it, and don't stop until they get to a point where they're very annoyed with you. Could you just shut up? You know, like, well, don't let it bother you. Say that to them. And I believe that's one way to get people to understand, like, oh, it just either bothers you, or it doesn't. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about this and see what your thoughts are on this. So share your thoughts below, and thanks for listening.